Greetings. Welcome to Extra Hours, part of the Office Hours Global network. My name is Grant Whitehead, reporting to you from Adelaide, South Australia. I don't want to talk too much right now because I feel like we have probably 6 or 7 hours worth of discussion to squeeze into an hour. And so we're going to try to do that quickly. Introducing everyone that we have on the panel. First of all, Alex, who started this whole thing, Alex Lindsay. Hello, sir.
Hello.
I can still see your eyes glazed over from spending so much time with that camera this week.
So much time in the headset.
Yeah, right.
It's one thing to go, what can I find to watch? And then there's a whole other thing of like working for hours of going in and out and moving around. Yeah, it's great.
So you were lucky enough, and that's a tease to what we're talking about, mostly concentrating on today, is the Blackmagic immersive camera that Alex got to play with for a week or so. You managed to extend it even a little bit too, right? FedEx didn't show up properly.
FedEx error in my favor. Yeah, they just didn't.
Right.
I have a sign. They were like, FedEx said they didn't know they didn't know that they should ring the bell. I'm like, there's a sign on the door that says FedEx, please ring bell. It's like for them. It's got a logo.
Couldn't have made it easier.
Yeah. So.
All right. So then we go up to Seattle, Washington with Guy Cochran. Hello, Guy.
Hello. Greetings from Seattle. Yeah, I've been eyeing Alex's behind the scenes, and in after hours, he was gracious enough to take it in there, and I was like, how can I get one? How can I get one of these cameras? By the time my spreadsheet hit the, with edit system, with extra media modules, I'm like, okay, $54,000 is all I need. How do I make it happen?
Yes, well, and I think you may be the only person on the panel that hasn't got an Apple Vision Pro either, right? That feels like
remind me. I'm the kid with the MetaQuest 3 walking around going, hey, man, I don't got any Adidas, no Pumas. I'm like that kid in grade school that didn't have the name brand. I got like the Kicks or something.
You haven't got the pumps. Yeah, exactly. Very good. Off to Albuquerque, is that, I think? Jason Beish.
So Jason. It is. Good morning or afternoon or evening or night, depending upon your time zone. Jason Beish coming in from Albuquerque.
There we go. You were very quick to get an Apple Vision Pro, and you've been tracking this space for a little while.
Oh yeah, very much so. And I too have seen the tiniest little bit of what Alex put up in Frame.io, and oh man, so good, so good,
so fun. Yeah. And then off to New Jersey, we have Marcelo back from Stream Voodoo. Hello, Marcelo.
Hey, Grant. Thank you for having me. How are you, people? Good evening, I guess, or like good morning. I don't know. Some people from New Zealand here that I don't know what the time zone is, and maybe you, Grant, too, in Australia. I don't even know what time is over there, but
our last special guest in New Zealand, which is the only person on the panel which is more in the future than I am, is right on the edge, living right in the future. In many ways than one is James Hustler. Hello, James.
Hey, Grant. Yeah, we're down here, the bottom corner of the world. That's often forgotten about. But that's kind of you to say. No, pleased to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm keen to have a good chat.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna dive in. Marcelo, I'm gonna get to you first. You were flexing before, talking about what was going on with Stream Voodoo. Tell us what you've been up to recently.
Well, yeah, I've been working a lot lately in live video technologies again, and of course Spatial was one of the main things that we were keep iterating and working and moving on. And lately we got featured by Apple in this Spatial Gallery app. Alex, so one of the videos that we sent, it was actually promoted and it's published on the app, so you can
take a look at that. I didn't know which one. Which one?
It's one from the Cherry Crest Farm one. I went to Pennsylvania to this farm, and
oh, nice.
I shot one cow with huge horns, and it was like with my wife and kids, and they were like there, and I sent them that and some others, and they really loved that one, and that got into the app this past week, which is great. And it was a match because
did you tweak it? Yeah. Did you tweak it at all? Did you filter or anything, or did you do any work on the video at all? No,
not at all. It was actually shot on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. I just recorded there. It wasn't a stream or anything, but it was just recorded. And but the beauty of it is the cow is so close to the camera with the horns, and there was a huge depth because you have it so close, right? And when that happens, it's like pretty incredible, the effect that it causes with spatial video, right? It gets you that sort of dimension that you feel like you're right in front of that animal. And it's just a nice thing to do, right? Because that animal was very friendly with people, which is a special situation. And yeah, everybody was like very nice with the animal and everything. Like the video is like a minute or 2 minutes long. It's a short one, but very nice indeed. And yeah, that was part of what was featured now. But then this T-shirt, it's because I was invited, and I was in a workshop working at Apple Park, and it was very cool. It was for 3 days in a row working in what we're doing for the Vision Pro and the different applications that we're working on, and very, very, very cool experience, to be honest. So there's that. And yeah, we're working in a new product that it's coming up. I can't even say the name, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And
great. Can't tell you the name nor anything about it except that it's good.
No, I cannot. Yeah, sorry about that. I cannot say, but it's very cool. And well, one of the main things about that was we were trying to make spatial video to have really lower latency, so we can have multiple angles in spatial and have multiple feeds. And Alex will smile about this because we were talking about doing multi-shots on spatial, and if we can manage it the way that regular video is managed, we are in business. So some of that, but yeah, it's exciting times for this technology.
So I guess whether you confirm or deny, but it sounds like you're being able to bring in multiple spatial feeds. And actually, just for people that may be new to this as well, we tend to use the terms, there's spatial and there's immersive. And we talk of spatial as being, tends to be 16:9 and not 180. So 16:9, but it is 3D. And so particularly when you're shooting off of the iPhone, it's using two cameras and you're getting a 3D image that's coming off, video that's coming off, that then plays in the Apple Vision Pro as if it's true 3D. So it sounds to me like you're getting multiple streams in, multiple spatial streams in, and potentially also being able to switch those. That sounds like what you're messing around with. Yeah.
That's right. And yeah, the cool thing about this is like it's 16:9, but the way that I think that, when people saw what we were doing, building, that, that was why we were there at Apple Park. I showed them that our spatial video, the take that we did, is the player that we created allows you to have the immersive mode for spatial video, which nobody's doing. And of course, Apple does their immersive mode for spatial, which is, this blurry surrounds, and
very
you
blurry,
see like you're like inside of it. And we took a different approach. We make it so the spatial video is actually in immersive mode for like the cinema mode, when you just put this giant screen on the back and you watch your spatial video in that giant screen. And I can tell you that it's a window to this other reality. It's so cool. And that's what they were like, why are you doing this? I'm like, well, because it's cool. And they really liked it. They really thought that it was very clever. Well, the thing is, like, when you really know about high quality and you keep the quality, on point, spatial video, when shot properly, is pretty mind-blowing. It's an experience. Of course, it's a window. It's still 16:9, but there's something to it. Especially when you see it in a big screen, like in a giant screen, like the size of a theater. It's just this window feeling that you really enjoy. And I kind of just wait to keep iterating with it. Of course, then immersive is the next step. We will support it, of course. And I was talking with them about that and some other ways to combine immersive video with some digital elements in some other things, so we can create new experiences that were never possible before. Which is why we are just not talking about video here only, but other things that surrounds video.
Yeah. So even interfaces and things like that could be
exactly because you have that infinite canvas, and that's super powerful to start testing new ideas, testing new ways of things, seeing things, overlays and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We don't have to be constrained in a 16:9 window. So
no. Yeah, I demoed the Apple Vision Pro to a doctor who's been doing a new way of seeing blood pressure during surgery, and what was fascinating is he's doing a 3D graph of numbers, but showing them in a different way, and he'd not experienced a Vision Pro before. And so when I gave a demo, he started to see that, you could really see this 2D/3D data graph in a whole new way. And he's kind of his eyes opened up to it. Alex, I wanted to ask you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but I just wanted to say that there's a remote expert use case that matches that. A remote expert that matches that use case. That's something that we were working on too. Like remote expert use case means, like you said, there's a remote person that is an expert in something, and then they get a spatial video in. They are talking on the spatial personas, and they're getting this 3D video out of the real world into the virtual world. Pretty incredible experience. Like, it's new. New territory, right, Alex?
It's very exciting.
100%.
Alex, you mentioned, I think it might have been in After Hours, you were doing a little demo of the camera, and you were saying about the two SDI outputs that you could get a left and right in 4K. I think it was 4K is the max. Yeah.
So I'm sure that there's going to be a better pipeline down the road. We're trying to figure out a way. Right now, that process is the way we're doing it anyway, and James may be doing it a different way than what we're doing. But we're not trying to look at the whole thing that we shot, because a lot of times the camera's placed somewhere. It's not like a camera shot the way you would think of regular camera shots. You're trying to figure it out, but you're trying to figure out, does this look good from where this camera is sitting? And in that environment, we want to capture 10 seconds and look at it real quickly. And so we're kind of grabbing that. The camera's on a network typically for us, and so the camera sits on a network, and we can pull it off that network really fast. So we don't even pull the memory card out. It's a 10 gig connection. We've been borrowing, OWC lent us a Thunderblade, which I'm going to have to buy, I think, because it's so nice. Anyway, so it's 6.5 gigabytes a second. So it's fast. And so it's faster than now the thing is that how fast do you need it depends on the compression. So there's a 12:1 is what has been recommended. I'm shooting most stuff to 8:1, and I still think I might even go to 5:1 if I was getting paid for it. Because that really makes a difference to me anyway. And you really want to stay as far away from noise reduction as you can. And I'm sure James will underline that the rendering times change pretty dramatically. And so anyway, what we want to do is pull it out, look at it real quickly, and then move forward. So in that environment, it takes us a minute or two to pull it out. You have a resolve file. You paste in a basic, LUT onto it, just to this is enough for us to see. I'm not trying to color correct here, but we've kind of figured it out. And then you can immediately, I will say that the connection with Resolve is a little bit tenuous. It's like getting it to show up in Resolve is real quickly. So I have a tendency to just render it out. So I render it out. I use the Apple immersive player AVI, the utility, the AVIU. So we throw it into that utility, open up. That's a real stable way to get it into the headset, and then look at it. That whole process takes 3 minutes, 4 minutes. It's like really, really fast to do that. But it would be really nice if I could just look at it live. And so what we're, I just put the headset. I'm used to. So when we did the Ozo, I was part of the launch of the Nokia Ozo, which was a 360 camera. It's sitting behind me somewhere in my wall of depreciation. And at one point we had 6 of them. And what was nice about the Ozo
60 is grand or something, wasn't it? Crazy.
It was 60,000. Here's the funny thing is, the first one was 60,000. The next two were 30,000 each. and the last 3 were 7,500 each because they were on the way out. So I had, at one point I had 6 of them, and we paid them all off. I mean, they all got, we did enough work for National Geographic and Facebook and everything else to pay them all off. So it was fine. It was a fun experiment. We learned a lot, but one of the nice things about the Ozo is that you could run its output. It's one SDI out, and it muxed all of the cameras. The downside is it had the same problems. Grain, it's a big deal. Because it was compressing everything into that one SDI signal. But the way that they did that allowed it to go through routers and switchers and everything else. So you could pass the video, not switchers, but routers. So you could just go into a traditional pipeline and then we had these PCs that were like 20 grand each, that were 4 NVIDIA cards, Quadra cards, that were processing in real time. So what was nice is when we'd be shooting, like, hey, let's look at this. We just throw the headset on and look at it. Okay, do it again. And then you put it down. And it was almost instant, like it was a second behind or something like that. It was really fast. And so I found myself with this camera wanting to have that back. And I think that looking at the way that the camera processes and everything else, I don't think you could do it with the metadata. So it'd be flat. I mean, what I mean by that is it's not doing the correction that it can do. But I think that you could get a sense of what's going on.
Well, right?
I think you could do both eyes. I think so. What we use a lot in other situations for live is Touch Designer, and Touch Designer has a lot of tools built into it to allow us to manipulate it. And I think that I have a theory that I can get the SDI outputs from, because basically SDI1, SDI2 can be defined as left and right eye, and they're going to come out synced. So I have a theory that I could get them into, that I could pull them into a PC or whatever and process them in Touch Designer to be a live 4K per eye output. And so it probably 60 frames a second.
60.
I think it's at 60, or maybe 30.
Yeah, I think it maxes out.
But it doesn't matter to me. It's literally, I just need to know. I'm not worried about the motion of it. I'm worried about I just want to see if my framing is right. Like a lot of times you put it on and you go, oh, that was too close, or this is too far away, or this is, and you get a sense of it pretty quickly. You've got some great heads up displays on the monitor to know like where your 100-degree FOV is, is when you're looking at it. So you kind of know what's in the box. I think that, let me see if I have some examples of that, but
is it similar to like shooting with a wide angle lens? Like that's the sense that I got, is it reminded me so much of the 8mm Sigma.
So like you're looking at this here, and this really defines your 100-degree, frame, right? This is when someone looks in, they're going to see this box. If they roll their eyes up, they're going to see this little area here. If they roll their eyes down without moving their head, they'll see this. And then the rest of this, and I will admit, the rest of this to me is just the atmosphere, right? So when we did a lot of the 360 stuff that I've done, we would typically we would very rarely put anything we cared about more than 120 degrees, which is just a little bit wider than that 100 degrees that's there, 10 more degrees out. And so all of our meat would be in this area. And then this other area is just to make you feel like you're there. So I have a tendency not to want people to turn their head too much, because I don't want them to look at the black, and in our case with 360, it was just not seeing the seam. or some of the seams. So we have a tendency to kind of build that frame out. And so this gives you a nice guide. It actually is shooting out here. I think I have another image somewhere, but it is, you see, you can see that it's getting cropped off here. This is the output from the camera itself, the raw output. And you can see here that this is 210 degrees. So this is the 180 was, cutting in here, and you can start to see things like my tripods and stuff like that. You didn't see that in the cropped version, because we're kind of paying attention to that, but you can see it in the uncropped, unmasked version. And you can play with that mask and resolve, which is pretty cool. Anyway, so I think that, as we think about that shot, a lot of the stuff that we did in the past is still valid, for the stuff that we're doing now. I did one thing that I was warned about, and I did take great care, is that I got a spirit for it, which I'm really happy with. Is I throw that spirit on real quickly, because the real problem you get yourself into is, and I got one from wooden camera that was this little one, not useful. This one was way more useful. This spirit on the front, because it's exaggerated. It's conical, and so It's exaggerated. So only 3 degrees goes a long way to do 3 degrees. And so it forces you to be right on. You can go forward back a little bit, but if you turn the camera to the side, and I actually shot somewhere, I just hung it at an angle. So you'll get I'm going to post some of those for people who have headsets. It's not just that your head turns like this to square up. It's that it ruins the stereo. You know, like when you turn like this in your headset, you're no longer getting the stereo correct. So it's kind of like you're crossing your eyes, you know, when you do that. And so it's not a good experience. So getting that roll, making sure that the roll is flat is a big deal. And I'm sure James can build on any of those things. So
yeah, James, you've been very patient. Thank you. I was just setting the tone there of who we have here. But I wanted to spend a bit of time. Could you give us just a little dot point of your sort of career path that has led to where you are now?
Totally. I guess my whole life I've worked for myself, and I've been in the industry of selling experiences, right? I'm down in New Zealand, which I'm biased, but I think it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. And a lot of tourism here, a lot of outdoors experiences, and that's kind of my passion. So starting with sort of traditional film, you know, been selling experiences for tourism companies, tourism operators. And I guess I've always wanted to kind of find a way to allow technology to facilitate someone who can't be there feeling like they're there. So this is probably really just an extension of what I've been doing for the last sort of 20 years. And yeah, it's really quite an exciting time for me these last few years and these last few weeks, because we really are getting to a place now where I feel we are sort of able to create experiences that do allow people to let the technology actually kind of melt away and just be somewhere else and feel genuinely like they are somewhere else. And I think that's actually quite profound and quite exciting. Yeah.
So the technology, I think you mentioned it, you messed around with some GoPro units before as well. And so what sort of things, what was the first thing you messed around with into this VR space, and kind of how that is in comparison to where we are today?
Yeah, well, it's coming a lot. I mean, look, VR video, I guess 360 video, 180 video, as we've called it for a lot of years, like that's something which has been around for a very long time, but I think a lot of people would agree it's always been like kind of dodgy looking. I started with GoPro rigs sort of, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago, and that's kind of evolved to building my own rigs with things like Sony mirrorless cameras. And then more recently, the last few years, Canon's had a brilliant sort of prosumer unit in R5 and R5C, which has got a sort of a lens which is really kind of all integrated and makes, or had made, making VR video a lot easier. Still a lot of challenges along the way, but yeah, the technology sort of slowly got better and better and better, and I followed that. And now with the Ursa City Immersive, we really are at a point where, you know, that workflow is getting all the kind of all those challenges really beginning to be beat out of it, to allow creators to much more easily kind of just create content and get it out there without having to focus so much on all the technicalities in between. I think that's the thing. There's a lot of people that are amazing creators, but there's just been too many sort of hoops to jump through along the way that's kind of stopped them from getting into this medium. And I think that's a shame. And I do think that will change now.
So you had it's an interesting sort of path for you in that you got the Vision Pro, obviously, you know, as quick as you could, and perhaps probably you got it before it was available in New Zealand, did you? Somehow?
Yeah, I mean, how much time? I could give a very brief summary of where we got to here the last few years.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, I mean, well, 5 years ago, I used to travel a lot for work, but 5 years ago, like lots of people, found myself kind of locked in one place. New Zealand, much like you in Australia, Grant, like we were pretty strict on our border, and we closed the country down for a few years totally. Instead of buying a house, I got a motorhome and hit the road, and was selfishly having the best years of my life. Like really, really good time here, enjoying these beautiful sort of sunsets every night. And we were doing this kind of me thinking like, wow, all friends and family around the world are doing it real hard. Like, how could I share these really beautiful experiences with others? Let anyone, wherever they are, kind of jump into my shoes. And that's when I kind of started taking it a lot more seriously and trying to create a VR 180 output that was so high fidelity that really allowed you to feel like you were in that spot. And that's, you know, back 4 or 5 years ago. Canon camera, Canon R5 VR lens came out about 2 or 3 years ago, and that really allowed me to create these really high quality outputs. We were doing a lot of upscaling to kind of make them look even better than they were. But the problem we had was there was no consumer headset that could actually display the resolutions we were creating. So when the Vision Pro was announced back in June 23, I was like, wow, this is exactly what we need. So yeah, sure enough, I flew over from New Zealand last February. I got the first Vision Pro headset from a store in California, flew back home, and kind of excitedly loaded up all of these outputs I'd been creating over the last years, and couldn't play them. There was no player to load your own videos into. So I set about building my own player, which was Explore POV on the Apple Vision Pro. And I have no coding experience, but I bodged it together with YouTube and ChatGPT, which was having its real launch at that time. And yeah, we created an app. I played the outputs, and they looked pretty cool. And I just published it to the App Store. And that's when I think a lot of other people who were dying on Vision Pro, as you'll know, for good quality content and things to do with it, found our little app, Explore POV. And yeah, that was last March. It's absolutely sort of grown a lot since then. I've shot in 19 countries in the last year, just getting out and shooting and shipping and just making stuff. And finally I got hold of the Blackmagic about a month ago, and we shot in 3 countries with it. Yeah.
And so just name drop some of the countries and some of the highlight countries you've been in.
I guess it was like allowing people to go to the world's most beautiful places. So that was my original brief to myself. So whether it's a beautiful beach in French Polynesia, or riding a camel in the Sahara Desert, or walking through Paris, like anything that's like bucket list for people, that's what I started with. And like I say, we're now up to our 20th country, and I think people are really enjoying it. There's a lot of people that can't travel to places for various reasons, so we've really facilitated a lot of people to go to places they might never go. Not just they're going to go next week but want to try it on a headset, like they might never go to these places. And I think to be able to do that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's kind of the idea behind it. The technology just, for me, facilitates all those experiences.
So there's 15 directions I can go with questions, but you've managed to sort of make it. Yeah, you had to come up with a business model in a sense as well, right? Because you created the app, you needed a player, you created that, but then you've kind of got a freemium type model as well with some subscription as well.
Look, I would love it to be completely free. That this was never the commercial intent. It was something I did as a hobby, and still to some extent is. I mean, it's a limited market, certainly with just locking myself into one headset. We're not on the Quest or any others. But the costs for this are high, right? Like, as I say, we shot in 19 countries the last year. That takes a lot of money. The gear is expensive. Just things like pushing the files out to users, storage, egress costs, all that sort of stuff. So we have a subscription tier in the app, but I mean, personally, I make no money from it. Every penny. It's like a closed system. It's more of a community thing. I kind of see it more of like a Patreon, like where people who are really into it, and there is a very loyal and brilliant community with Vision Pro. They like supporting what we're doing, and seem to get a real lot of it. Get a lot of emails every week from people who genuinely think it changes their life. Like people who are really struggling with stuff, they really get a lot from the app. It's cool.
There's a little video that you did about a year ago, sort of explaining some of that story, and there was someone on there that was, I think, a quadriplegic.
Yeah, Usman.
Yeah. Can you tell that little story?
Yeah, man, it like literally got the hairs on my arms standing up. I was chatting to Usman. He's a guy who lives in the western coast of the States, and since birth has never, he's quadriplegic. He's never been able to travel, never been able to, walk, run, hike a mountain. And he called me, and he said, James, like, I just taken the headset off. He had tears in his eyes, and he was saying, I just climbed a mountain. I just hiked it. And for me, Grant, like, that was really like blew me away, because he hadn't watched a video of someone hiking a mountain. He hadn't watched a video of a mountain. He had hiked a mountain, and for him to feel genuinely like he'd been there and he'd done that, and that was like an experience he could sort of jump into, that was like complete validation for me and what I was doing. And yeah, that, you know, Usman is one of a lot of people who've contacted me who, for all manner of reasons, can't kayak in the Philippines or hike a mountain or go and ride a camel in the desert, but they did it through the app and genuinely felt like they were there, and that's pretty cool.
It's super cool, and it's one of the things that I feel like my wife calls my Apple Vision Pro. She calls it the devil's device. That's what she calls it. She's just like, she doesn't like it, has not tried it, not interested. You know, doesn't love walking into a room and seeing me wearing it. You know, that type of thing. And so it is a very solitary experience, and it's almost an exclusive experience too, right? You put this on, and and you block out the rest of the world. I do find that I am most comfortable by myself. No one else around, or at least no one that I know. Right? Sitting on a plane is totally fine. You know, things like that. But there is something that almost strips away humanity, or something about this that we're still sort of getting used to. And so I love hearing stories like that actually bring this humanity back to it. That's like, we've now created an experience for someone that was never going to experience that. It can't experience it in that way. And that just adds a whole nother element to it.
Mate, yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think that's it. Look, I mean, I live in New Zealand. I like running and hiking and biking in the mountains. Like again, it's something which, to me, there's this element, certainly some years ago, I'm like, do I want to be working in industry where like getting people to put a headset on their faces? But like, it does have that kind of slight, or it did have that slight kind of maybe dystopian feel to it. But the reality is, like, as you say, there's so many people around the world for so many different reasons that, you know, they will never be able to go to these places. And I think to have a piece of technology and the workflow to support it that allows us to let anyone anywhere be somewhere else and experience it, understand it, that's incredibly powerful and really quite profound. And I think that's probably why I find it so exciting about where we are right now. And with things like the Ursa Cine Immersive, I do feel like we are only really just now at a point where the technology really allows them to feel like that. And I think then the potential is massive. It's a very exciting place to be.
In this little segment, in my mind, we're covering off the why, because I think we can sort of just get into the how and talk about that. Yeah. But this why is really important. Just finish this little segment for me, and the idea of conservation is something that you're also big into, and you've got a couple of little anecdotes about that too, right?
Totally, yeah. I mean, Explore POV is like the world's most beautiful places. People go there. They use, a lot of people do it, you know, before work for 10 minutes to chill out. But I kind of wanted to push it further. And as you say, one of my passions is conservation. New Zealand, we're a very beautiful country. And I think a lot of people assume it's like some perfect land. But like anywhere, we have a lot of challenges. We have a huge amount of problems. Our native species have been decimated here. And earlier this year, we did a test. I flew out in a helicopter and shot an immersive piece with a really amazing conservation firm who are trying to bring back the native species and protect them in one of our most remote places. Like, it was a place people just can't get to. And we shot this, and we went and presented it and put it on the heads of policymakers up in Wellington, the capital here in New Zealand, and kind of wanted to see their reaction. You know, could we use this actually, rather than just a cool experience, as something that really genuinely, you know, we could produce positive change from? Could we help it to achieve funding, or, you know, make change in policy that helped in the bigger picture? And the feedback, man, it's like just been like sensational. Like, we had, you know, conservation sort of heads of 30 years who just wouldn't give it back. Like, they were transported to this place. They were sat there in Wellington, but they were in, you know, this wilderness area, you know, many hundreds of miles away, and really allowed them to understand the issue and feel the issue. And I think the learning for us was, like, people can't care about something they've not experienced. It's very hard to get people to care about things they haven't experienced. And if you can truly allow people to, you know, feel a kind of emotional response from something, they're going to care much more about it, and they're going to therefore potentially be able to be a part of positive change. So for me, that conservation angle, I think, is really important. And again, I think for anyone, whatever the business, whatever your industry you're in, but conservation as an example, like, the place we're in now to allow people to understand what you're doing and feel like they can really get under the skin of what you're doing, be where you are, see your work. Like, I think that's a really, really exciting place. And, you know, the potential, as I say, with it is absolutely massive.
Incredible. Guy, we've got a good question there that gets us back into the tech and how.
Sure, we got one in from Peter Belbin in Houston, Texas. And Peter asks, lots of focus on video, fair enough. How about the audio? Any important points of note about audio for immersive?
Come to Alex first, and then James, I'm interested in what you think about audio.
Yeah, I mean,
Alex?
I think the audio is at least as important, you know, over time, and it's just a matter of figuring it out. What I'm experimenting with right now and really happy with is this. This is the Voyage. Here, this is a second order ambisonic, so it's 8 mics. They virtualized the 9th mic, and this is just Dante. So I have this going out to a Scorpio via Dante, so just PoE, which is nice. And then I have the Scorpio passing that back into the camera as a just so I can just have a reference point on the camera. There's a temptation, by the way, of leaning this down, like so that's nearer to the camera, like you do with a regular shotgun mic. Problem is that in first and second order, especially first order, most of your resolution is in the equator, and there's less resolution on the ends. And so if you lean your mic forward, you'll end up with less resolution. When you rotate it back up in ambisonic, you'll end up with less resolution where you need it. so that's and it also gets closer. There's the camera itself isn't silent, so putting the mics right up to it is probably not great. So I've kind of gotten to the habit of putting it up there. I've been shooting with this different versions of these ambisonic mics for a couple of years. And so the ambisonic, I think, is really important for people to understand because that's where Apple's going. So the Apple spatial audio format is up to, I think it's up to a 7th order ambisonic field. The tools are very new. But the first level of those tools are in the current Resolve. It's what's really cool about capturing some of the ambient stuff that I'm planning to do some more of soon is that the smaller version, that Voyage, is a USB-C into a phone. Like literally, I have this. I got a to capture stuff with the USB version. I got a sling for a quiver for your arrows, and it fits my little light stand and the mic. So I just throw it over my shoulder and I just wander off into the woods. And then when I want to pull it, I just pull it out, hook my phone to it, and record. I'm stealing the sounds away, and so it's become relatively easy. I'm capturing almost everything with that ambisonic mic. You still oftentimes are going to want to mic people up, obviously, with the bands where we are grabbing all the sounds, and being able to think about how that goes back into surround is, I think, going to be really important. The reason I was capturing it with the band here was because in between takes, I wanted to have what it sounds like in the room. So like if they're playing a song and they say a couple things after the thing, I kind of didn't want it to come through their mics. I kind of wanted to have you feel like you're there or experiment with it. I mean, this is literally a picture that I took probably, this is right before we started recording. So I had recorded 10 seconds on that camera before we had gone live because I had just gotten it the day before. So I was like, I got the camera, here we go, so that was, I've been shooting with that.
I love the idea of particularly that in between time, because when you're experiencing a band like that, that in between songs is when sometimes you can feel most closest to them as you're kind of in the room with them, and so you're hearing the drum kit get retuned or adjusted.
Well, and I think in some cases I think that there'll be places, my daughter played this great little, my daughter plays a bunch of instruments, but she played some guitar in some redwoods in the woods. I don't know if it was redwoods, but it was in the woods. And it sounded so cool. And I was like, okay, we're going to have her do that more often, but I think that might be interesting if that is what we hear is the ambisonic of how it interacts with the environment and what you're in, and that's going to be there. But I think that ambisonic mics are a big piece of what we're doing, just because again, the Apple spatial audio format is going to be ambisonic based. What you see Jason there, that was the 5.1 mic. That's a That is DPA 5100. That's what we used for NAB. And so there we were capturing that 5.1 and streaming it directly to YouTube, because YouTube will accept a 5.1 signal. So we were able to send that in and kind of mix it in. And I really feel like what we were doing is our handheld mics, your mic, Grant and I were walking around looking at stuff. Yeah. Our mics are going right down the center channel, and then the 5.1 fills in. And then what's cool is that in YouTube, if YouTube just allows the device to figure out what it's going to do, it's like if the device can handle 5.1, like your Apple TV going into a sound bar or surround, you get 5.1. If your device can fold down to binaural, which is all the Apple devices, so your iPhone and everything else will just automatically take a surround and just fold it down to 5.1 or fold it down to binaural. And then if it's only stereo, it does stereo. So doing 5.1 kind of serves, and usually folding 5.1 to stereo, the stereo sounds better than if you just mixed it in stereo. It tends to have a little bit more separation. So anyway, so I think that was I think that all the sound is going to be, and I built an app that did Atmos and Vision, or worked on an app that did Atmos and Vision, and so we've had to think about it a lot. But I think that it adds at least as much as the visuals of feeling like you're there. I know I have a pretty powerful 7.1 system at my house, and my family doesn't know much about audio, but they do know when we only hit stereo. It's just like a wall, like you're just like this weird wall that's sitting in front of you, and you're used to things happening all around you all the time. So I think that we have to be thinking about that, and I think that you want to be thinking about that technology as cutting edge as everything else right now, because of the Apple spatial audio format and the Apple positional, or the Apple codec, Apple positional object code, Apple positional. Anyway, there's another. I think of it as, I mostly just think of it as Apple spatial audio format, but there's a codec that's there, and for some reason I can't think of the name of it right now because I haven't had to say it out loud very often. I read about it a lot in white papers. So anyway, so those are the things that we want to be thinking about. But I definitely think it's going to be important. It's interesting. And I am very curious what James uses when he goes out into the world.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say next.
Yeah. To mirror what you said, Alex, it's easily 50% more. I think some people would argue it's almost more important, because people might forgive bad video quality, but they probably won't forgive bad audio. And it's something that I'm very guilty of. I think it's very easy to get, you're talking immersive video, audio can always come second, but it does often get neglected. I think there's two main reasons for that. One, like, it's just another thing to do and think about, but it's also like the tools have been like so challenging. You've had to kind of build it all together yourself. I mean, that's another great reason why we're in such a great position now, because with that new build of Resolve as of a few weeks ago, we have all these tools integrated in Fairlight, in Resolve, where we're already working with our video. And we can do it so much more easily. Even if you haven't shot with an ambisonic mic, you can get different audio sources and pan and put them where you want and build up that kind of sound in exactly the way you want. And it's relatively straightforward. Like, and then when we go to distribute it, it just gets packaged up with our Apple Immersive Video and we're away. We don't have to like be attaching it here and there. So yeah, I think it's definitely important, but definitely has been massively neglected. But I think, again, we now have a solution where so much is integrated together, where it's going to become a lot easier to create great audio.
Apple positional. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I was going to say, I use the spatial video mic, the USB version you mentioned. A big part, again, we neglect it. Like, it's me with a backpack, right, in these really remote places. So I'm quite limited on like what we can take. So for me, it's like key things as lean as possible, and creating the best fidelity experience with the best gear. But like, it's got to be achievable, right? I haven't got like endless time and crew and stuff. Like, it needs to be like really kind of. I need to be able to do it in a very kind of like effective and efficient way.
Yeah, Apple positional audio codec is what I was looking for.
Yeah,
that part that I couldn't get my head around. Yeah. So, but it is really interesting when you talk. Like I've definitely gotten listening to stuff, and I played with a lot of stuff where I'm moving mics around and doing something that's closer to some kind of decatry, or doing lots of arrays and so on and so forth. I've just had a hard time. I find myself enjoying the ambisonic more. you know, like it's, and that's it's kind of a religious conversation. We try not to talk about religion here in the show, but you know, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, the ambisonic," and then the question is or should you be recording with, you know, a head, you know, in the middle and all these other things? But I find that the ambisonic stuff, and especially as you start playing with some of the higher order ambisonics, which I've only got to test a little bit. So most of the stuff I've done is first order and second order. And when you listen to a record of like a higher order mic, you kind of feel like, you know, again, you feel like you're working in a low resolution, like you're working with like when you think about like 6th and 7th order ambisonics, the first order stuff, it feels like a 320 by 240 image of your sound.
So what does the Blackmagic camera record? Just by itself? Oh, okay.
Audio wise or
audio wise? That's what I meant.
Yeah, it's just like just a scratch track, really.
Right.
It's it's just,
I wouldn't consider it workable. Like I can hear the motor. I can hear the fan. So
yeah, I was interested, Alex, to see you mounting on the top there. That's something which just had to stop. I mean, the fans, it's a beast, that camera, and it kicks out like a lot of air straight up.
Yeah, I haven't had it. Now I've been playing around with it. I do have it a little higher now, further away from it, but I haven't had it blowing past it. Now I admit I took the head off of that so that you can see what it is when I take pictures, but I put a cap on it when I'm actually shooting. So,
like a windsock?
Yeah, I have a windsock on it. That now in this studio environment, I left it open just because I didn't even know how much I would use it. But I really haven't had it be it effervesces. Like I would say that the camera effervesces, but I haven't heard it when I listen to it. I haven't heard it like blowing past the mics, and I don't expect to use a lot of the down area. And fan noise is something that I'm not too afraid of. As far as the filtering out, of that area. But I do think that I'm still playing with it. So I guess what I would say is that in the other cameras, I haven't had as much trouble with it. In this camera, I can definitely hear it, and so it's definitely something that I'm thinking through, in that process.
Yeah.
What's your distance to subject like in that frame, Alex? Like 10 feet?
That's 2 meters. I find that I have experimented. So. I think the nearest focus is 0.5 meter. It's like 18 inches or 20 inches is like nearest focus. That's really close to the camera. I find that 1 meter is something that I want to do as a surprise and delight, but not something that I want to do, regularly. So it's a really close personal space. Like, let me see if I can find a picture of this. We were shooting this. This was a glass blower, and this is a great example of it's probably 3 meters to him here, but a lot of his work is at about 2 meters around this. But there's a moment where he walks up to about 1 meter and he dumps this into a mold right here. It's really cool. Like he walks right up to you. He's like, "Whoa!" You're like, "Whoa!" And you have to look up, and then you look down. And now that would be super annoying if you did that for more than 30 seconds. Like if he was sitting there and you had to look up and down, it's too much work. But as a kind of a moment, I thought it worked. For what we were doing there. So, but again, the other challenge with sound is that like that has so many blowers that are going on that I don't know how useful the sound is. So, and we're going to shoot more with him. It was great to have someone who's an instructor who's been doing glass blowing for 20 years and an instructor, and was willing to come in on a Sunday to just shoot with us like last minute kind of thing. Cause I didn't know when I was going to get the camera. So when I got the camera, it was like I had to just stack a bunch of stuff up really quickly. And he's so good at describing it. I was like, oh, we're going to shoot. He's now our new test case. So we're going to learn a lot about glass.
It was so cool. And I mean, you could have had like some of the typical shots in 3D movies, where it was like putting it right in your face or whatever. But it doesn't need any of that,
It didn't. I felt like it was very casual, and and the funny thing is that I did think about getting closer to the furnace. It was just too hot. I was too afraid of taking a camera and getting that close. It's really hot. And so I was just like,
a prototype.
I know. I didn't want to have like one of the eyes kind of like leaning down after I was done. But but to James' point, you know, like I love the idea of giving people this experience. And I think when it comes to training, I think, or not just training, but experiencing art, you know, and being able to see artists be artists, I think that's going to be a great place to go. Like, and I love locations as well. I've done a bunch of shooting at Angkor Wat, which I'm, you know, that with the Ozo, you know, where we did 360 stuff there. And you know, I think that those things are amazing, and there's so much in the future for us to do in places, in historical places and beautiful places, like what James doing. And for me, the two things that I pay the most attention to right now is music and then artists. You know, just doing, you know, glass blowing, or I'm talking to a location that does metal work, and some other folks that do pottery, and some other folks that, you know, like, and I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of artists, whether they're sculptors or other things, and I just love watching it, you know. And so I think that that's going to be another experiential thing. I'm also thinking about how do we, I think in the same way James is how do we produce a lot of content? Like, people with headsets are starving,
desperate. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's it. And I think, like, you know, there's felt, certainly until now, like so many limitations in the way. I just hope maybe this piece of hardware like allows people just to get out and like ship experiences. This is just that's what I've just tried to do, you know, like, and don't think we're by far the best videographer in the world or the best this or that, but I think we've probably put out more videos in the last year than anyone, and I think that goes a long way when there's just such a desert of, you know, content out there.
I once asked a photojournalist that I was working with. I was doing some work in northern Iraq, and I was working with this guy that was a photojournalist, and I was and he said, well, I asked him like how he got into this, and he goes, I just showed up. He's like, there's not a lot of people that are willing to go out and take pictures while people are shooting, like, with other things than cameras. And he goes 90%. He goes like, it's the saying, like 90% of just showing up. He goes, I showed up with a bunch of cameras and lenses, and that was 20 years ago. And now I'm, you know, I go all these places, and it's just to your point, like, if you're going out and doing something that's really challenging, the big step is just being willing to do it and being, you know, able to slowly get better, you know.
Definitely. And with a medium like immersive, where there's so much like refining, like, you know, how do things look and feel when we're this far or this far, like the really best way to achieve that is go out, shoot, you know, cut, share it, and then refine and refine and refine. And like you said earlier, like that's what you're trying to do on set with your 3 minutes pushing it through. But even bigger, better and bigger picture, just like whole narratives or whole experiences, just like, you know, that's the best way, because there's so much theory and technicalities behind this particular medium that like it can become almost quite like, you know, you get exhausted before you've even started. So yeah, it's
I am struck by when we think of typical Hollywood, like the superhero movies and things now, I think of the special effects that you see, and it's kind of like, it's all mind-blowing. It feels like anything can be created now. That this feels like a medium where it actually is more just true to reality. That you're having a sense of, like, because I don't see a lot of videos. I mean, even what Apple Immersive's putting out, there doesn't seem to be a lot of special effects and things going on in those. It seems to be just really what's happening there.
I think that there's and this is the way I've seen it for I think almost all the stuff that I've worked on for 360, and like James, I mean, I started with like printed, you know, for 6 GoPros I had, you know, that we were, you know, I have one that was broken. I think I got run over somewhere with the cameras, but I have the shards of the very first one that was printed out, and I've got a couple that I bought, and so we were all doing we were doing live 360, you know, in 2015. So that was out of the GoPros. So they were getting, you know, we were blending them together or stitching them together live, and then running them in elementals and streaming out and everything else. And I think part of it was adding effects would be really hard, you know, like it would just, I mean, it just to what we were already doing. Not impossible. I mean, putting, you go into Nuke or something like that, you can get into a 3D environment, you can put stuff there. We used to use this thing called Vidosis, I think, that allowed us to do a lot of the graphics, and we did graphics for some of the stuff, titles and some other stuff in there that allowed you to warp it all in and blend it all in. But I found that when I watched it, I felt like it was kind of taking away from the just being there, and I think that there's so much that you want to, like when you go into the headset, I don't find myself wanting to have too much going on. Like the point is I'm taking you somewhere or I'm showing you something. I think that there will be a place where we might, when it comes to instructional stuff, we might have little things pop up and go around them. But, and that's the great part of Resolve, is that you're going to be able to do it with Fusion and other things like that. That stuff is all not going to be, it's all going to be still the same app to do a lot of those things as those tools progress.
I think another take
also,
as well. Sorry,
I'm sorry. No. I thought about immersive videos being short, and when I started watching immersive videos, and of course Explore POV also among the first after Apple's immersive examples, I remember seeing the length being short, like 5 minutes or 10 minutes tops, right? I don't think that there's like longer format. It's not a longer format. It's something that is being short. And I thought that it was maybe because you don't have the camera, and now you do have a camera, and maybe the Blackmagic will allow you to do longer shoots. But to be honest, I think the timing is right for that sort of medium for now. When you watch an immersive video, I think the timing is pretty compelling. I know maybe you want to see more or something longer, let's say, or maybe a movie or a short movie. But to be honest, I think also the immersive is so impactful, right? It hits you there. Maybe the travel videos when, James is walking in the mountain is kind of like nice and you can see something longer. But I don't know what's the length of your videos average, James. Maybe 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, the episodes for what you shoot. You end up publishing.
Less than that, probably averaging 2 or 3 minutes. But I mean, there's been a very simple answer for that. We'd love to do more, but it's been a technical limitation, really. I mean, certainly a year or so ago, like how do we, this Blackmagic camera example, right? That's pulling, it's pulling 8K per eye. Like obviously our outputs for the Vision Pro are crushed right down from that, but they're still massive files. So we didn't have access to a tool that allowed us to stream very high resolution video to people on the Vision Pro a year or so ago. So they had to be downloaded, those files. And who's going to sit, let's say a 3-minute video on average was about 5 gigabytes on my side, because that's the size it had to be because of the, for it to look a level of good, I thought was okay. So really, it was just a question, what's the realistic size for a file for each of these experiences to be? Maybe 5 gigabytes. That gives us about 2 or 3 minutes. That was kind of limitation. Now we have those tools where we can stream to experiences directly to users at a much more efficient, kind of bit rate, and they're still getting it's achievable over the connection they have, and they're still getting a really good energy experience. Well, there's no real limitation on how long the video could be. Again, now we don't have to upscale. From the upscaling, we were talking like on my machine anyway, like anywhere from kind of 10 or 12 hours per minute. So again, I don't want to upscale for more than a few days. With the Blackmagic, we don't have to worry about such things. So suddenly there is going to be a lot of longer form content, I think, being pushed out.
And I think one of the other challenges is just what a lot of times we talk about is content density, which is that like it has to be interesting all that time. Like people will just turn it off, right? Like they'll watch for a little while, and that's a lot of work for you to do, for them to just turn it off. And so, I think that YouTube has gotten better over time because the creators got better. They got better tools. They got better at it. But for a long time, everything was really short on YouTube because you just couldn't keep it interesting for more than 6 to 7 minutes. Now that the content has gotten, everything's gotten better, you can sit there and watch something for 20 or 30 minutes. I don't know how long I do that, but I mean, I'm a really painful skipper. Like I'm skip. Okay. And so I think that that's still a challenge. But I think that content density, like you watch a 22 minute video on YouTube, unless the person's really good, seems like an eternity. 22 minutes of watching Murderbot, where they're spending $250,000 or $400,000 a minute on the show. It's pretty quick. It goes by fast because there's so much content density. There's so much happening. There's so much production quality being put into every second or every minute that's there. And I don't think we're in the. We always knew that when we were doing 360, we just weren't in the. Even if we were spending a lot of money. I mean, I've worked on 360 projects where the budget was $500,000. But still, that for what we had to do, it was not. We didn't have a lot of budget to do that. And I do wish. I have to admit, when I started playing with this camera, I went back in my head and looked at all these shoots that we did, and I was like, oh, it would have been nice to have this camera. I will say it doesn't. Again, the thing that you have to be careful of is that it doesn't work everywhere, in the sense that it does want a lot of light. Like it doesn't. It's not like a dark club kind of camera to shoot yet. Like I don't think that there'd be a lot of stuff that I'd.
You need to manage light. The light conditions has to be on point.
Yeah,
I was about to say for James, the outdoors thing is.
You basically push it
using
until
the sun.
The sun's pretty useful.
Yeah, the sun is great. And so I did find that the sun was useful, but I had a lot of light that I would normally go, wow, that's a lot of light to add. I pulled out these. I don't have a lot of big lights at the house, and so I pulled out these big old Kinos and a bunch of other lights to get it. And even then, I was struggling with, when I didn't take it outside, I was struggling with making sure that I was because I definitely found that 100 or 400A ISO was a more pleasing from a grain perspective than the 800. So my knee jerk is to shoot 400 at 8:1 is kind of like, if I'm doing stuff, that's kind of the place that I would probably want to live. But that needs a lot of light. That's a to achieve that. So that's the challenge. You are shooting with a slightly slower shutter. So I did a test where we went 90, 120, 180, 270, 360, and 270. And Hugh Howe mentioned this in his video. 270 seems to be the most natural looking. 360 is that what you found, James? That 270 is about
270 at 90 90 years is about the sweet spot. And one thing you said about noise, that is something we put out our first content a week or so ago in French Polynesia with the camera, but it's by no means, I think, probably the best we can get out of the camera. Even though we've got that relatively easy workflow now in Resolve, there's a lot we can do. And I think probably one of those biggest things is that potential noise reduction element, because we're crushing down those file sizes so much, I think we do need to remove as much noise from them as possible, so we're not wasting data in places where we don't want to be.
We got rid of noise back in the old days when we were doing little podcast. I was doing podcasts at 1080p 20 years ago, and we had to get rid of all the noise because of exactly what you said. Is it dropped our file size in half and still looked the same.
Yeah, so I think, there'll be some place, I think people will perhaps still be, spending a huge lot of time in Resolve, or even pushing it back out to something like Topaz just to run noise reduction passes on it, just because it's going to give them a much better output, because we're just, again, you're having to compress it so hard at the end. You need to just be as clean as possible.
Yeah, and I'm interested in what bit rate you're running. I've been testing different bit rates, and I have kind of what I tend to refer to as I started shooting some Widowmaker shots. So I have my backyard has a lot of trees, and so in a couple different layers. And so in the morning you shoot that, and the HEVC does not like it, and so I'm trying to figure out what that bit rate is, because there's certain things that just want a lot of bit rate,
Definitely, you're right, and certainly, we want to go to a forest, it's going to need a lot more data thrown at it than if we're going to sit on a mountain top with a nice blue sky.
Right.
And that's something we've all got to think about. But at the end of the day, there is a hard limit, and that's what a user, what's the connection going to be like? What can they stream at? And Apple seem to think 50. We go to kind of 60 or 70 megabits. For downloads, we probably try to push to 120 or 150 if people are downloading. I used to do 300 because my, I was using to encode it.
I've been floating at about 300.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But like, people can't stream 300. So like, if this needs to be offered as a stream to people, we've got to try and find ways of still offering a really good looking experience at say 50, 60, 70. And that's where I think all the challenge is. And I think Black Magic, I'm sure, will be working hard to really refine those export settings from the current version of Resolve to hopefully make that.
I mean, that's what I'm so excited about, is that you and I both have dealt with just cobbling together weird programs to do all the weird things and to try to squeeze the most out of this. And we finally have a project, a process that is pretty straightforward. I mean, it's never been, it's not perfect yet, but it's never been easier, ever.
Definitely, and I think that's going to bring so many new people on board, and I think that's what's so exciting. And kudos to Apple and Blackmagic for like knuckling down and really like getting to grips with that, because there's been all these disparate tools in different places and round trips from here to here, and finally to have everything kind of integrated in one place is huge. And
the camera really feels much more mature than a first generation. Like it's just it obviously comes from some input from folks at Apple that have been, NextVR and everything else, and have been doing this for almost a decade. So it's, and even little things like, maybe the 17K is this way as well, but it made a big difference for me to have an airy power supply. Like, it was like a little thing, but I was like, oh, that's much easier, because we were, putting it into a Trinity rig, and that was it would be a lot of gack to do it.
But then even things like that 10 gig connection, I mean, for me, that's an absolute game changer. I live out, say, I have a backpack and trying to offload these in a laptop sat on a beach somewhere, and I'm able to literally do that with this camera. I can't take that, the dock for the media modules, I can't take it with me. So I'm offloading to a Thunderblade, as you say, through a MacBook Pro, like that's pretty cool to be able to do that in such a lean, small way.
Yeah, 100%.
Very cool.
Yeah.
There's another question there, Guy. Someone there.
Yeah, we got one in from Justin Kent in Jupiter, Florida, asking, anyone having success getting 3D video into Apple Vision Pro via HDMI over the developer strap, or able to suggest another means of inputting side-by-side 3D over HDMI into the Vision Pro in real time with low latency, sub 100 millisecond?
Alex?
Not there yet. I will say that the developer strap is a key piece of the puzzle. So if you are doing development in this area, the connection to the Mac to move files over Wi-Fi is pretty painful. So it's possible, but the developer strap makes a huge difference in being able to use it. And you do have to do this kind of weird thing where you handshaking the Wi-Fi and then turn it off, make sure that it's moving over with the developer strap. But I find that that's super useful. But as far as getting live video in, I haven't done that yet.
I think
there's a way.
The utility is the only way.
Apple utility, but there's also I think there's a way, but you need to use the Mac as the virtual display, so it's not the same quite there. But you could.
You can do side by side with that.
Yeah, there's I saw a guy that actually did a tool that allows him to play 3D games from a PC into the Vision Pro, and it was 4K 120 per eye.
Wow,
pretty cool. And but it's a workaround. It's not just one tool. He had to do like a process, but yeah, it should be coming. There's something for the Mac. I remember one guy doing a tool for HDMI plugin. So whatever you plug into that app, it has a video source, and then but I don't think that was 3D though. I think that was just classic 4K 120 regular video. But that's something that I was looking for, trying to make something that allows you to bring 3D movies or 3D pre-recorded files into the Vision Pro easy. There is a way. I need to do it. The day has only 24 hours.
It's just not an app. It's not an easy app or whatever at the moment, I guess.
No, because there are APIs now to manage some of that. But I need to work on some of that stuff. And like I said, the day only has 24 hours and complicated.
That's right. Yeah.
It could be done soon. I mean, there are some movie players, I think, that allows you to do that 3D. So you should search in the App Store. There's one called, I think, Cineplex or something like that. I don't remember quite the name, but there's a movie player for the Vision Pro that allows you to watch 3D movies from your library.
I've played with Infuse as well. That Infuse
is another one.
Plays a bunch of different things.
I don't know if that takes 3D videos from your library. I think maybe they should. But Cineplex, I think it was the other one or something like that. And
right.
And it was cool to see that. But I don't remember the name, but I know that it's possible with some of those apps for now.
Right. And the last question, Guy.
Got one in from Peter Belbin, Houston, Texas. Will live immersive remote telepresence, either via robotic or human remote source, become a thing? How much and little bandwidth is needed to support that?
Alex?
Well, I think it depends on spatial or immersive. I know that Marcelo's been thinking about things that are spatial. Immersive is going to be a lot more bandwidth, and right now it kind of takes over. I do think that we're going to see more opportunities for people to like interact with the content that they're looking at, and probably not the too distant future.
Yeah, so spatial is closer because we're doing it now, right? Live, a little bit of latency still, but it is there and it's pretty compelling. We also do live video with ultra low latency, but with really high quality. So if you want to check that out, then you can check on streamvoodoo.com if you want to see more about that. But besides that, I think, spatial is going to be before immersive. I tend to look at immersive like this crazy new format, and it's great. And I love the idea of digging into it. There's a reason why the camera doesn't stream immersive yet. They should, right? It was in the protocol. I think it was something that they were like, maybe we'll do 3 via software update, but for now, there's only these 2 SDI outputs that we are trying to see if we can actually put them together and stream that and see how that looks. Because if we do have the sources, right, and they're aligned and they're like time sync and everything, maybe, right, Alex? Those are the experiments that we're working on. Trying to get the 2 SDI outputs from the camera in order to see if we can pull them together and just let you watch that in the Vision Pro live in immersive. It could be good.
I think that's something people have been wanting for so long, and would be such an amazing use case for the hardware. You know, like how many posts have we all seen about like people desperate for their live sports from the sideline? I guess it's just a technical limitation, is it?
It is.
Here's the thing. I've actually had the opportunity to do a lot of that, and I will say that live sports is not nearly as good as people think it's going to be. So here's the problem is that there are sports that are really good at that I want to shoot some stuff of that I think is good. So MMA, boxing, wrestling, anything that's close quarter, wow, just stunning. Like, and it's a little scary because when people come right at you and even though the camera feels like you're closer. So like in an MMA shot, we did some that were right off the top of the ring, right? And so there's no way they're going to get to us, but when they get close, you'd see people jerk their head back and stuff like that when they were looking at it. But it's, you know, the real sweet spot in that area is that kind of 8 to 16 feet with a little bit of extra on either end, you know, so maybe 2 or 3 feet earlier, another 10 feet out. And after that, a lot of times the resolution doesn't resolve well enough to make it worth it. And so for sports, like we did a bunch of soccer. It's pretty boring because where do you put the camera? I mean, you can cut around with the cameras a little bit, but everything's so far away, the resolution doesn't resolve yet to when you know, at that resolution to making soccer look that good, in my opinion. And so big sports like that, I find to be pretty hard to watch. I just got bored really fast, and I don't get, you know, this is what I do. I love it. Yeah. So I really love the action occurring. For me, what's compelling is sports or events or things that all occur less than 25 feet from me. You know, like that's where I see all the parallax. That's where I see all the stuff that's happening. I do think I like the stuff that James does, and some of the stuff that I've been shooting as tests. I do kind of like the idea that I can go sit somewhere and look out over something. But I think that
you still need that foreground element, though, just to give it
make you feel like you're there. You got to have something in that area that's playing. And again, I find it these close quarter sports I think really do well. The big field sports I feel like don't really work, and unfortunately those are the ones with all the money.
But I think the NBA though, it would be pretty game changing. Like if you saw the NBA,
I mean, again it depends on how many positions. We did it with and we didn't do it as high resolution as it's doing, but we're doing 4K per eye stereo 360, and we put it right in the midcourt, and we put it right over where there's like a press, the press desk. And so we put it right in front of there. So you really had a pretty darn good shot, that was there. And it felt amazing when they're mid-court, but all the real action's happening at the baskets, and so you're kind of like looking way away, and then you're looking way away, and so I think that, and then I had the opportunity to sit courtside because we were shooting the stuff, and and so we got to sit there for a little while, and it's it's not the same. I think that I think that I wasn't as excited about it. Now, if you have enough cameras, I know NextVR back in the day when I was doing some of this before they were bought, we're putting cameras under the basket, but I couldn't see a place where they were going to get me a better position than a 16:9 camera. Like that's the problem with those big ones. You got long lenses, you got replays, you got all this other stuff, and it's really easy to feel very quickly like you fell backwards. Like when you go to an event like a football game, like an American football game, if you go to the event, the visuals are bad. Like unless you're really rich, they're really bad. Like, you're really far away. But the experience of have people yelling around you, and you're eating the hot dogs, and you're not going to be able to talk tomorrow, and you're all getting excited, that's what makes it worth going. And you don't get that in the headset. You just feel like it's really far away. And so I haven't been as excited about sports, I think, as most people are. I think that, I think music is going to be a big deal.
Well, the Metallica immersive is one of the best, if not the best, immersive experience for a live show that I have ever seen. Highly recommended to check that out. It's very low light as well, and they did like an incredible job. We met with the guys that actually did it at an AB, I think. It was great. They were there.
I think there were some shots that I just really loved from that one, but again, they were more of the close quarter shots that were kind of. There's a side shot where James is leaning in singing, and the fans are coming up at him, and I think that was a great, that was one of the best dimensional ones. The walking behind James as he walks under, at the very beginning. Not crazy, a shot that you would expect to work well, and I thought it did.
There's some of those times we were talking about sometimes they'd push into the crowd, and it was just that little bit too close. There's a few of those times where you just
too much, maybe.
You find yourself,
it's a personal preference, but I get it. I get what you're saying. Other than that, I think it was great. They told that it's funny because in this conference where they were explaining why they were actually putting a camera next to the drummer the way that they did it, and they said, well, because it was the only space that they got left, and they were like, put it in, and they would decide if we keep the shot or not, and they just kept it. But pretty amazing. If you like the band, of course, much more, but
it helps.
I think that it would be cool. I've streamed Metallica a couple times, and they've rehearsed in areas that I worked in, and so I would pay real money to have a 180-degree camera shooting the rehearsal in the old, because they used to rehearse in the old 3210 stage, and I would, like as a special event that you don't get to see, I'd rather see them rehearse or have them do a couple songs from the rehearsal space. There's been a couple of those where, before Chester passed, we did this live stream with Linkin Park, and in their studio, the studio that they started in. And before that, we had to go meet with them and talk about the shoot and everything else. And they were rehearsing the songs for that for weeks, and And I was like, man, this is where I want to stream. I don't want to stream. I mean, the studio's great, and it turned out it was like one of my favorite streams that we've done. But they're sitting around in their rehearsal studio,
sound check, yeah,
way better. So and I think that that's the kind of thing that we can do with an immersive camera that you couldn't bring a crowd audience into.
Oh, I think the same with Abbey Road. I'm like, stick a camera in Abbey Road and let us listen to an orchestra, recording a soundtrack for a movie or something. It'd just be blown away by it. That'd be amazing. We could go on for several hours very easily. We tend to end this time with a content recommendation, and I guess it only seems fitting that content recommendation would be related to the Vision Pro. I'm not going to restrict that for everyone, given Guy doesn't have one, but he still may have some recommendation. Jason, what do you have?
Okay, so I've been very much looking forward to seeing Superman in the headset, and it's out. It's been out for a couple of days now. I'm very much looking forward to that. But around those lines, I strongly suggest. So I found this German company called Infinity One, and I have bought every single way, that they've had alternatives for the light shield because it's magnetic, and it every time I feel like I'm going to drop it. This is the first one that actually is designed so that it's part of this, and the light shield is just straight in, and it leaves the bottom completely opened. So that might weird you out, but I've got to say, of all the ways I have bought every possible thing that I've been able to find for making the Vision Pro more comfortable and being able to wear it for extended periods of time. Nothing so far has beaten the Air Cover 2.1. Let me get that back. Air Cover 2.1 from Infinity One.
Good one.
That's good.
Who's next, Alex? What have you got?
We were talking about film before, and I think that if you haven't watched Avatar, especially the second Avatar in the headset, you should. It is, it's the best 3D, film ever made. And so you can decide whether you like Avatar or not or whatever. But as far as 3D goes, and you want to see how good 3D can look, and what I would focus on, if you've already seen it, go back and go the underwater. So the underwater is twice the frame rate, and you're going to notice that it's a lot better. It's going to be interesting to see what frame rate we see the next Avatar. The third Avatar is coming out this December, I think. And I think that Cameron wants to keep going up in the frame rate. I think a lot of us would love to see 120. I think 60 probably is coming. The advantage of 120 is that it's evenly divisible, so it's easy for them. He could deliver it at 120 to some theaters, to 60 in the theaters that can handle that, and then even take the 120 and go back down to 24 and rebuild the motion blur, or if it's 3D, re-render the motion blur at the right frame rate. But the interesting thing about 120 is the remarkable number of theaters can actually do 120. They're not. It's not like they can't produce those. Sometimes it can't be 4K. It might be a 2K 120 distribution. But I think that'll be interesting. I do. I test projectors. Yeah, that's definitely a big part of that's my day job. So I do the immersive stuff for fun, but I'm in theaters all the time, pushing. So I went from not knowing a lot to knowing a lot of the specs for a lot of projectors. And so what I do is I try to see about once a week. I try to see how hard I can push a projector and a system, like how good can the music be, how good can the projection be, how do we take full advantage of what somebody paid for a lot for, and make sure that the audience is getting the maximum capacity, maximum output. So anyway, those they don't all do 120, but like the Barco SP4Ks, which are pretty common, will do 120 at 1080p and even do 3D and other things like that live. So there's a lot of opportunities to take advantage of.
Marcelo.
Yeah. I think I have two things. One is the latest immersive from Apple. I think it's the orangutans. I don't know if you haven't seen that, but it's pretty remarkable. Really, really cool. I didn't expect that to be like that, and I think that it took time for them to edit that because of all the things that happen in the wild. It's in Africa. It's just incredible. You should see that if you like wild animals. That's one. And then I watch on IMAX. I mean, this is not it's not on AVP yet, but there's a teaser trailer in AVP for the Formula One movie, F1. It's great. Yeah, it's a great movie. I saw it on IMAX. Very, very, very cool movie. Actually, I like Formula One. I don't follow it lately a lot, but I think that they show you an angle from this sport that is crazy, and it's really, really cool the way that they did it. So that would be my recommendation.
Did you watch the clip in AVP for Formula One?
Yeah,
the hot lap.
They did
the
that.
hot lap. Yeah.
The lab.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I wish it would be faster. Maybe they didn't do that fast.
Wish
so
it wasn't
people don't
Brad
get,
Pitt driving. Like, you know,
Well,
show me a
that's the
real
thing.
driver.
Maybe
They
you should
didn't do
not
it, like,
have an
so
actor
fast.
drive.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe they should put like Hamilton to do what he knows best, right? Or
Right.
Leclerc or somebody. But anyway, it's fine. But it was cool to see that movie, and I think that for the Vision Pro, that I will of course watch it again. I think it's gonna be great, but it's not there yet. But that's my recommendation. Yeah.
Good one. Guy, what have you got?
I mean, I don't feel it's as relevant because I don't actually have an AVP, but the one thing that I was blown away when I felt like I was stepping into the future was when I took the MetaQuest and did the Brink Traveler, which they've put like these 650 meg stills that you could look around, and you know, it's kind of the poor man's thing, but the resolution is super detailed, and you could actually transport to different spots. You just use your handheld controller to zip around and go to different places. So you could like go over to that peak and it just shoots you over there. And you know, there's 20 million headsets out there on the market. So I'm just wondering what Facebook's answer is going to be to the AVP, and you know, where that leaves folks like James as far as going out to these different places of the universe. I guess you're going to Mars next, James. Different places in the world.
Don't be limited.
Unless you get yourself a space shuttle, the budget's going up. Yeah. So that's my pick one. Is the Brink. Yeah, Brink Traveler is the name of it on MetaQuest.
Okay. Nice. James?
It's funny you said that, Guy. Brink's absolutely amazing. I wish it would be on Apple Vision Pro. I actually shot one of the Brink experiences here in New Zealand, so I highly, highly recommend that if you've got a Quest and you're watching this. Brink is, in my opinion, the best piece of the best app on it. I also think it's really interesting that photogrammetry approach versus really high resolution immersive video, and I think that's a really, really, you know, we get into a whole other conversation for another day, but yeah, Brink's great. So would love it if it came to Apple Vision Pro. My recommendations, my first one is going to be the same as Marcelo. I think Orangutans is by far the best piece of Apple immersive video put out by them. The intimacy you have, and it comes a lot to what Alex was talking about, what kind of distance. You really feel like you can reach out and touch them, which is really, really cool. The other recommendation is on Explore, my app, we have one of the first pieces of Apple immersive video by a third-party creator on the Apple Vision Pro. So if you're interested in seeing kind of what the camera's capable of from a kind of small creator's point of view, that's on there. You go to Explore POV, download it, and there's a free teaser in French Polynesia, a beautiful place. So yeah, that's my recommendation if you haven't seen it already.
Good one. Nice. Well done. My recommendation is from someone who doesn't really game that much. I did fall in to Gears and Goo, the game that's it's on Apple Arcade, and it's very, very cool. It's a strategy game. It's like a tower defense game, and you can make it nice and big. And it is immersive, which does mean that it's still augmented reality, but you can't have any other apps going. It does take over, and then you can make the playing field as big as you like, and then you control all these little characters as a strategy tower defense game. There's 20 levels, and it takes a while, but it was worth it. I fell right into it, so it was a good one. Very good. Well, thank you, everyone. We went a bit longer, and I kind of felt like we probably would because the discussion was so great. A special thank you to James for joining us. Hopefully, we've teased you enough with some of our questions and discussion that we can get you back again sometime. And then I just want to say a good thank you to Taylor, Robert, and Peter for making things happen on the back end. They're switching all of this in the cloud on software called Vector, VizRT Vector, and pulling it all in from Zoom. And so it's pretty amazing what can be done like this and doing a live stream out to YouTube. So part of the reason for us doing this content is actually to create an excuse to play around with switching content in the cloud and playing with different ways of doing that. So thank you. And thank you to everyone that was watching and the couple of questions that we had as well. And we'll do it all again next week. If you can't wait until next week, then join us at 7 a.m. Pacific tomorrow morning, and you can ask questions in office hours. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.